Something's wrong with America, and it's not just politics anymore. Families, friends, neighbors, they don't trust each other. Red versus blue has turned into something darker. And the most terrifying question is staring us in the face. Is a second civil war already here? The trust breakdown. Something deeper than disagreement is happening in America. We've always had political tension, but now it's gone systemic. It's not just a battle of ideas, it's a collapse of trust. A 2023 Pew Research study showed that the ideological divide between Democrats and Republicans is wider than at any point in the last 50 years. But that's not the scary part. The scary part is how each side views the other, as not just wrong, but dangerous. Over 70% of Republicans still believe the 2020 election was stolen. A majority of Democrats believe the GOP is trying to dismantle democracy. These aren't fringe views, they're mainstream. This breakdown isn't limited to politics. It bleeds into science, medicine, even basic reality. During the pandemic, mask wearing and vaccines became tribal symbols, not public health tools. News channels tell completely different stories depending on your political leanings. Social media serves us curated outrage, feeding our biases in echo chambers that grow more extreme over time. We're not debating policies. We're questioning each other's humanity. That's not just division. That's societal rot. Every institution has taken a hit. Congress, the courts, media, law enforcement. A 2022 Gallup poll found trust in nearly every major U.S. institution at record lows. And when people stop trusting the system, they don't just complain, they look for alternatives. Sometimes those alternatives are dangerous. The foundation of democracy isn't agreement, it's trust. And right now that foundation is cracked. Secession in the mainstream. Not long ago, talk of states breaking off from the U.S. was considered the stuff of fringe movements and conspiracy theorists. But that's changed, fast. In 2021, a Brightline Watch survey revealed that 37% of people in the South supported secession. That number jumped to 66% among Republicans in the region. Texas Republicans went even further. In 2022, they officially included a call for a secession vote, dubbed Texit, in their party platform. This isn't a joke. It's not a meme. It's a political goal. On the other side of the map, California's Calexit movement gained traction after Trump's 2016 victory. While it hasn't reached mainstream policy yet, it continues to attract progressives who feel alienated from federal politics. In the Pacific Northwest, rural counties in Oregon are pushing to secede and join Idaho, arguing they have more in common with their conservative neighbors than the liberal Portlanders. And they're not wrong culturally. The divide is real, and it's growing. Legally, none of this is supposed to be possible. The Supreme Court made that clear in 1869. But laws only hold if people still believe in the system. And what we're seeing is a growing number of citizens, and now politicians, who no longer do. When lawmakers in Florida and Mississippi start publicly musing about the United States being ungovernable, you're not dealing with isolated radicals. You're dealing with a country on the verge of unmaking itself. Militias and organized extremism. The average American may be tuning out, but others are tuning in and gearing up. The rise in armed militia groups across the U.S. isn't new, but it's accelerating. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, more than 500 anti-government groups are currently active. That includes militias with real training, strategy, and in some cases, military backgrounds. Groups like the Oath Keepers, Boogaloo Bois, and 3%ers aren't just social media noise, they're operational. The Oath Keepers were directly involved in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. That wasn't spontaneous, it was coordinated. These groups are driven by apocalyptic beliefs that the government is corrupt, that civil war is coming, and that they are the last line of defense. Some call it patriotism, others call it insurgency. What makes this more dangerous is the level of overlap between these militias and some local institutions. In certain counties, members of these groups have ties to law enforcement. They attend town halls, they run for office. This isn't just a fringe subculture, it's embedded. On the left, while not as militarized, you see the rise of counter-extremist groups like Antifa-aligned collectives who sometimes engage in violent protest. The result? A pressure cooker of armed, radicalized citizens increasingly willing to confront each other in the streets. Modern civil conflict scenario. When people hear civil war, they picture 1861, blue and gray uniforms, Gettysburg, clear battle lines. That's not how it would happen now. If civil conflict breaks out in modern America, it will be messy, localized, and decentralized. Think armed standoffs at state capitals. Think cyber attacks that knock out power grids. Think rogue sheriffs refusing federal orders. Think violence erupting at school board meetings or election offices. Political scientist Barbara F. Walter describes it as an invisible war that creeps in slowly. There's no single spark, no formal declaration, just rising instability until one day something breaks. We've already seen dry runs, armed protests at state houses, threats against election officials, small-scale acts of political violence, and in a country with over 400 million guns in private hands, it doesn't take much for a localized flashpoint to spiral out of control. The military wouldn't respond the way it does overseas. Domestic conflict presents chain-of-command problems. What happens if different states issue contradictory orders? What if the president is part of the conflict? We've never tested the limits of our constitutional structure under these conditions, and we may not like what we find when we do. Lessons from history. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And if you study the collapse of other nations, you'll start to see a familiar pattern. In the 1990s, Yugoslavia was a stable, modern, multi-ethnic country. Then came rising nationalism, economic instability, political corruption, and civil war. Not in jungles or far-off lands, in cities, between neighbors, in apartment buildings. Chile in the 1970s was a functioning democracy until polarization reached a breaking point. The military intervened, a coup replaced the president, and just like that, democracy fell. Rwanda, Venezuela, Lebanon. Countries don't fall apart overnight. They weaken, fracture, and then fail. The warning signs are always there, but people ignore them until it's too late. The U.S. isn't exempt from these patterns. We like to think we're special, but no democracy is immune to collapse when people stop believing in it. When the middle gives out, when both sides start seeing the other as enemies, not opponents, history shows us what happens next. It's not pretty, and it's not theoretical. The invisible divide. You can't fix what you can't see, and that's the problem now. The real divide in America isn't just cultural or geographic, it's algorithmic. Social media doesn't just reflect division, it creates it. Platforms like Facebook and YouTube reward content that provokes outrage. And now with AI tools that can generate fake news, fake faces, fake voices, the line between real and manufactured reality is disintegrating. In 2021, leaked Facebook research showed that their algorithms amplified extremist content because it got more engagement. YouTube's recommendation engine pushes users toward more radical views within hours of casual browsing. TikTok is no better. The more time you spend angry, the more money these platforms make. Now imagine deepfakes convincing millions that something happened when it didn't. AI-generated articles spreading false narratives faster than any fact-checker can react. A manipulated population is a vulnerable population, and that's exactly what bad actors, foreign and domestic, want. In this digital battlefield, the war isn't fought with bullets, it's fought with belief, and whoever controls the narrative controls everything. This isn't a prophecy, it's a choice, and the longer we ignore the cracks, the harder they are to fix. Are we heading for collapse, or can we choose peace? If you want America to survive, this isn't the time for silence. If you're tired of noise and want truth that cuts deep, this is the channel. No spin, no hype, just the hard questions we all need to ask. Subscribe now, before the next line gets crossed.